right, how are you doing?
I am going really, really well. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat to us today, Matt.
No worries. Happy to do it.
So, Matt, tell us a little bit about your journey with this film. Where did everything start for you with Freud's last session?
Well, it's a long journey. It was like, came to me right after I did my last film, and must have been like 2018 or something. And it was it came to me as a first draft of a screenplay from the play by the playwright. Um, and I wasn't really sure quite what to make of it. It seemed a little close to what I'd already been investigating in my last film, and then but the themes of it were just really fascinating, and the characters, and it was one of those things that like quickly got under my skin, and I was thinking about it, and just was like trying to come up with reasons to not do it, and just not doing it, I guess. My dad's a psychiatrist, so I was also a little bit like, do I really want to work out this weird Freudian pact as well? But I don't know, it got under my skin, so I started to work on it, and it developed over a number of years with Mark St. Germain, the playwright, who was also screenwriting, and eventually it went through two actors. To the point where it got to Hopkins, and then we developed it further for another about another year, and the film came together. It was sort of surprising when it did. I didn't really think it was going to be the next film, but it Hopkins said yes, and that really changed things.
Is that a feeling that you've had before as a director or a screenwriter, where there's been a project that's come to you and you're just not sure whether you want to make it or not? Like, is that something that's happened before, or was that a first with this one?
I mean, I've had it before, and then I've always said no. But this was a first where I said yes, and it was, it's just funny because there just was so many things about it. Like when it first came to me, I thought, my God, society is just so polarized and crazy right now. And you turn on the one channel, and I hear everyone agreeing with each other in one way, and I turn on the other channel, and they all say the exact same thing opposite the other channel, and this is just not how life used to be, and this is crazy. And I was like, boy, this film has the potential to tell something that kind of goes against that, to intellectually curious people that want to hear from one another about what they think and want to listen. So that drew me in pretty solidly. And eventually, it was strange. It just kind of tipped. All these things kept adding up to say, well, yeah, now I really love this and I really want to do this. So, I mean, you can't really go through the process of making a film. You shouldn't, at least I don't think, unless you really kind of do love something.
Yeah.
It would be kind of masochistic because it's so hard, to make a film. So you'd have to really feel a need or a burning sensation, or else I guess a massive payday. I don't know. I haven't experienced that one yet, but open to it. But yeah, I think for me, I remember Ed Pressman said to me a long time ago when I first met him. He's this great producer. He's produced a million films over the years. And he said, I just look for directors that have passion for something, and that's what I sort of go off of. And I remember working with Jeremy Irons, and he sort of said the same thing. And I think you have to have passion for the material you're working on, or people can sort of see through it.
Do you remember what the moment was that tipped you over from no, maybe, to yes, I'm doing this? Was there a certain moment that changed your idea about doing this film?
Well, I mean, no, I mean, it sounds like once I made that decision, that was very, very early on. I mean, I think I just read the script a couple times, and I was just like, no, there's too many things in here that I'm not ready to let this go. It's like that moment where you're like, well, what if I just say no and I never get to see it again? Would I be really, really sad? The answer was yes. And I said, no, I'll stick with it and I'll work with it. And from then on, I was certainly committed to it. I just didn't think it would actually get made, because trying to make this movie into a film and get people to finance it was not easy. It's just not an easy film to get made. So Um, I tend to be drawn to sort of stories that often have themes of mortality or some of these heavier themes, and those films are difficult at best. And then when you throw in the period aspect of it and the cost of all that, it can make it extremely difficult. So I just wasn't sure. And then I think it was when Hopkins said yes that I thought, oh, well, it's going to get made. But the truth is, even with Hopkins, this is still a very difficult film for the producers to get financed. So it took a village to make this one.
Yeah. We'll talk about the cast in a moment, but we have a lot of screenwriters that listen to our show, so I'm kind of curious, what was the screenwriting process like for you on this film? You mentioned that a first draft came to you that had already been put together by the playwright. What was the screenwriting process like for you on this film?
Well, Mark was doing most of the screenwriting, who was the playwright. So I was giving him notes and developing it over a number of years with Mark, and Mark was he was leading the screenwriting on it, and then eventually we got to a point, sort of towards the time when the first actor came on. Originally, it was going to be Christopher Plummer, where I kind of think around then, maybe 2019 or I can't remember when it was. But at a certain point, I sort of took over the screenwriting, so it was either Mark writing for a number of years, and then I eventually wrote towards the end.
Okay, so now let's turn to the cast. Like you said, there sounded like there was a bit of a cast change there with Christopher Plummer coming on board as well. But when you first sat down to work on this film, did you imagine who you wanted in those roles when it came to a cast, and how did that process play out for you?
Well, you have your wish list, for sure, as a director, and at the top of that list was Anthony Hopkins. So one of my producers, Rick Nacita, was Hopkins' old agent from years past at CAA, and he gave Hopkins the script originally, and Hopkins came back and said thanks, but no thanks. So I was not really surprised, because trying to get an actor of his stature is about as easy as winning the lottery. So he said no. He was in the middle of getting ready for The Father at the time, and then we went on and got it to Chris Plummer, and Plummer said yes, which was wonderful, and he had just done All the Money in the World, and he's somebody that I've just been enamored with forever, and such a lovely man and so kind and wonderful guy. His wife too was wonderful, and it was very, very sad when he passed, and I felt really sad about doing the film without him. And then I went through a period of where I was actually doing some of the screenwriting on my own, and I just decided, well, I'll take one more shot at this and see if I can't get the script a little further along. And then they said, who do you want to go to? And I said, can we try going back to Hopkins? And I think because Rick did represent him, it was a more comfortable, hey, take another look. He's done more work on it. And he did take a look at it and said yes, which was somewhat shocking. And it was actually really strange, because I was on location. I was doing a location scout on another film that I thought I was going to be shooting, that hopefully I'm going to do next. But the actress, she was on a television show, Euphoria, and they switched their dates, and she became unavailable. So I'm sitting there on location being like, what in the world am I going to do now? And half an hour later, I get a phone call that Hopkins wanted to do the film, which was just strange at best to say, because it's within a half an hour. But so he said yes, and then that started us, a pretty solid development period. But so once Hopkins came on, I think it was kind of a game changer, and then a lot of people, want to work with Hopkins. So he's just an actor magnet. But I really love Matthew Good. I've been a fan of his for many, many, many years. But especially just in that, he's incredible. And I was like, let's go to Matthew Good. And sure enough, he said yes. So that was fantastic.
I should have asked this question earlier, Matt, but how much research did you do with this film
Maybe
as
there.
well? How much did you know about Lewis, and how much did you know...
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Yep. Matt, I wanted to ask too about your research. I should have asked this a little bit earlier on, but how much did you know about Freud and Lewis going into this film?
I didn't know very much about either. I mean, my father's a psychiatrist, so I was familiar with Freud, obviously, and I knew some of the basics, but not really very much. And with Lewis, I had read his books growing up, the Narnia books, but I hadn't, I hadn't read his more adult stories. They're his books that about Christianity, which I came to during my research, the Mere Christianity. Is that what it was called? Sorry, I'm so tired right now. Yeah, but anyway, I came to understand a lot more about them during the research period.
So once the cast was selected and you got to sit down with Sir Anthony and also Matthew to work on these characters, how did that play out for you, and what was that experience like, sitting down with these two very gifted actors and fleshing these characters out, and how did that change the screenplay?
Well, it started with Anthony. He was bringing 85 years of experience to it, so I think he thought his attraction to this was just looking at his own mortality in his own life. So he brought all these life experiences that he shared with me and opened up about over a good long course, and we worked on the script and on the character a lot together and leaned into the dream aspects of the film. And then with Matthew, we did a lot of preparation ahead of time as well. In fact, with independent films like this, you do most of the work, up front. You don't get a long rehearsal period. There just isn't the time or money. So it was mostly individual one-on-one work ahead of shooting, and really delving into researching the characters. But talking about, like with Matthew, for instance, about really being present and slowing down. He's such a fast, kinetic, brilliant actor, but for him to just sort of slow down and be in the moment and really be sort of a Zen approach to the whole thing, where he's not needing to fight back and yell back at Freud, and we would let a lot of that play out. I mean, it's the hardest thing to do as an actor, is to really listen and have it really read on the actor's face and emotions, and he's just incredible at that. So yeah.
Sir Anthony Hopkins has also played Lewis in his career as well. Did he give you much insight into Lewis as well when you were working things out with him?
Not much, no. I mean, we had a couple conversations about it, but it wasn't a tremendous amount. It was more helpful, I think, to Matthew Good, who had an opportunity to talk with Tony about his approach and as he was developing his own approach to Lewis, and it kind of gave him, I think he helped give Matthew some freedom with the whole thing.
Definitely. Now, the set itself, you said before that working with Sir Anthony Hopkins was a little bit of a dream of yours. What was it like walking out onto the set for the first day to direct a film like this with so many great performances? You've worked with great actors in the past, but was this a little bit different?
Yeah, it was. It's a little scary, but Anthony's so collaborative, and we had spent so much time together ahead of time that it was a lot less scary than it probably would have been if he had just shown up out of the blue. So we were in constant contact going into it. What was really fun about it was that we were shooting at Ardmore Studios in Ireland, and at Ardmore, Tony had shot A Lion in Winter, I think 50 years earlier, on the same stage. So when he walked onto the set 50 years later to do our film, everything kind of had come full circle, and it was really remarkable to be there in that moment with him when he stepped back onto the stage. So it was more excitement, and there was some awe too. I think both Matthew and I were just like, we're in the presence of one of the greatest living actors. So but you quickly get to work and you forget about all of that.
Yeah. Matt, we are running out of time very quickly, so to finish off the interview, what would you like to say to people out there that are about to go and watch the film? What would you like them to take away from Freud's last session?
Well, like I said, society's so polarized at the moment, and people don't really listen to the other side. And I think what this film is about, in many ways, is about listening. And I hope people, when the lights go down, they can go out and get a coffee or a beer or whatever it is, a meal, and go and just talk about things and not feel like they can't speak, and actually listen to other people's points of view, and maybe they'll find something interesting or enlightening from it, So this film's going to require a little bit more patience than you would see in, your typical cinema movie these days, where it's a lot of action and a lot of real fast-paced sort of TikTok kind of world we're living in. But if you have a little bit of patience and do a little listening, I think there's some fantastic performances and maybe some insights into not like new thoughts on God or anything like that, but more into just human kindness and intellectual curiosity.